In this example, we are working with the same polynomial f that is up here from the previous example. And in the previous example, we identified two of the zeros which were rational, namely x equals -1 and x equals 1/2. So for each of these zeros, that means the function f of x, we've identified two factors, x plus 1, x minus 1/2, and I have the 2 out in front because that's our leading coefficient. And now we have two other zeros, I'll call them R3 and R4, that we need to identify. And these two correspond to the points marked in green. And we can see that these are somewhere at about 1.7 and minus 1.7, but they're not rational, so we can't find them precisely until we do a little bit of algebra, namely polynomial division. And so if I take the piece, the two factors that I know, along with the leading coefficient over here, and if I were to divide this into the original polynomial, that should peel off the remaining two factors. And so what's going to be left is going to be some quotient. So what I'm going to do is divide the stuff that I've circled in blue into the polynomial. I could divide each of these factors in separately, but let me save some time and do this in one shot. So the factors 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1/2, when I multiply this out, this gives me 2x squared plus x minus 1. So now I'm going to try and divide this 2x squared plus x minus 1 into the polynomial that we started with, which was 2x to the 4th plus x cubed minus 7x squared minus 3x plus 3. So doing some polynomial division, I would multiply 2x squared by x squared in order to match the leading term. And so that would give us 2x to the 4th plus x cubed minus x squared. And then I would subtract all of that. So this cancels those cancel. I get minus 7x squared plus x squared. So that gives me minus 6x squared. And I'm going to bring down the minus 3x and the plus 3. And this means that I need to multiply by minus 3 in order to match the leading term of what's left over. And so that would give me minus 6x squared minus 3x plus 3. And when I subtract this, as we hope, we get a bunch of cancellations. Those cancel, those cancel, those cancel, and so the remainder is 0, which is good. So that means these are indeed factors. So what we have now is f of x is equal to 2 x plus 1 x minus 1/2. And now we found that the remaining quotient is x squared minus 3. And so this quotient we can factor further to identify the last two zeros. So f of x is therefore 2x plus 1 times x minus 1/2. And factoring the x squared minus 3, we can factor that into x minus the square root of 3 times x plus the square root of 3. So therefore we can see that the zeros are the minus 1 and the 1/2 that we found, the rational ones, and we have two additional ones that are not rational at square root of 3 and minus square root of 3. And those are the two that are marked in green above. So if you were to approximate these come out to plus or minus 1.7, so that matches what we see in the graph above.